So we are live and we're about to begin. So Juan, the floor is yours.
Greetings, everybody from Planet International Space University. I'm calling in, as you all know by now, from the surface of planet Earth. And it's beautiful to see yet another large gathering of members of the ISU community for this online alumni conference. For those of you who were with us 1 year ago, you will remember that the conference was kicked off by the top person at NASA at the time, Administrator Jim Bridenstine. This year, we were looking for someone who's also at the top in a different organization, and we thought that perhaps the International Astronautical Federation would be a sufficiently 3I organization. And we also aimed at the top, and we found the president of IAF, Professor Pascal Ehrenfreund, who said, yes, I'm available. And she has suggested the topic for the kickoff session for today, which is the workforce in the space sector for tomorrow. And that is precisely what our dear university has been doing for more than 30 years to help prepare the workforce for tomorrow. It is my honor and my pleasure to give the floor now to Professor Pascal Ehrenfreund, who is the president of IAF, but he's also our dear chancellor of ISU, and as you know, is also the president-elect. Over to you, Pascal.
Thank you very much, Juan, and greetings to you wherever you are. And I would like, to welcome all the participants of this ISU alumni conference, and also to the panel on the space workforce for tomorrow. And I thank you very much for keeping and actually evolving this transition of coming together as ISU alumni and discussing the exciting progress within the space sector. I was very impressed when I read your program over those 3 days. And of course, thank you for doing it in a virtual format in these rather unusual times of a pandemic and keeping it alive. So the global space economy in 2020 valued at about $360 billion. And after the recent studies, and we witness advanced space technologies and unprecedented entrepreneurial leadership, a lot of private investment, which has actually not changed very much in 2020, although we had a pandemic. So the space sector is really very robust and dynamic. And when we look at the predictions, they estimate probably $1 trillion global space economy by 2040, 2045, according to recent studies. So in the last years, we have observed really an evolving space economy, not only with new emerging space nations, but many commercial actors, a growing downstream sector, and also very strong connections with the non-space sector. And there is a significant shortage in STEM workforce. We know that all over the world. And we need tens of thousands of highly skilled employees in the space sector, especially in industry, in order to design, manufacture, and operate innovative space technologies and missions. So to understand the trends of the space workforce of the future, and in particular the needs of the space industry, including primes, SMEs, but also startups. We have a lot of startups in the space sector in the last decade. So this is really crucial for all of us to understand the trends, but also in particular for organizations such as the International Space University, which are really educating and training the future space professionals. So I want to introduce the distinguished panel of today. We start with Angie Buckley, which is the Chief Engineer of Human Spaceflight of Aerospace Corporation. Marella Graziano, which is the Executive Director for Strategy and Business for GMV, and Lisa May, which is the CTO of Lockheed Martin. We have the CEO of Linspace, Guillermo Tanier, and we have the CEO of Earth to Orbit, Susmita Mohanty. So I'm very, very happy that we have all of you with us today, because that shows also diversity in continents, but also in the size of companies, primes and smaller companies. So I think we learn a lot today about trends and what we need for the future from all of you. So every panel member will give a statement of approximately 4 minutes before we go into a questions and answer cycle. And before I give the word to our first panel member, Angie Buckley, I want to remind you that you all online, you have got instructions to ask questions. We have a tool for you, and we will collect those questions, and they will actually also appear on the screen, and we will ask them when all the panelists have actually given their statement. So thank you very much to the panel for being with us, and we start with Angie Buckley for her first statement. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, and thanks, Pascal, for that introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here to take part in this panel that's addressing this really, really important topic. Just as a way of background, the Aerospace Corporation has been a very strong supporter of ISU since its inception, and we continue to support, and we still hold a seat on the Board of Trustees. I'm going to share a brief introduction to the company, and then this will provide you some insight into why we're so very interested in this important topic. So let's see if I can apologize. There we go. So the Aerospace Corporation was established in 1960 as a California nonprofit to operate a federally funded research and development center, which is sponsored by the United States Air Force. We provide independent, objective analysis that cuts across the space enterprise to provide decision makers with the information and solutions they need. Our sole interest is the mission success of our customers. Aerospace is the only FFRDC federally funded research and development center that's dedicated to the whole of the space enterprise. We are the trusted technical advisor to the United States government on complex space enterprise problems, and we provide disciplinary continuity, unique capabilities, and foundational knowledge to help shape this new era of space. Today, we find ourselves in another period of rapid innovation. Our customers look to aerospace to be an innovation leader by addressing emergent challenges, leveraging commercial sector developments, and continuing to find new ways to use space for public enrichment. Our workforce comprises top technical talent with extensive experience developing solutions that satisfy multiple stakeholders. Of our nearly 4,200 employees, almost 80% comprise the technical staff. This includes about 800 PhDs, with about 45% of the technical staff holding a master's degree. Our areas of expertise include science, engineering, physics, math, and chemistry, as well as a number of non-technical degrees that include space policy and economic market analysis. Our workforce of the future development activities include K-12 and STEM outreach, community outreach, and education and training. We view these activities as critically important to develop the pipeline of highly qualified and motivated future employees. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts further enable aerospace to continue to attract, retain, and develop the talent that we need to support our customers. Our DEI efforts include 34 targeted actions across 6 focus areas to foster a workplace environment where employees can bring their best selves to deliver innovative solutions to our customers. We take the future of the space workforce very, very seriously because of the nature of the work we do. I have the privilege of working with a team that values not only what we're doing now, but also what we need to ensure the future space workers, to ensure that they're prepared to step in when the time comes. One of my colleagues in the Center for Space Policy and Strategy, Colleen Stover, recently published an excellent paper on developing the future space workers. And you can find that paper at the link that's on the chart that you're seeing now. I really look forward to our space workforce development discussions, and especially look forward to discussing how ISU plays a pivotal role in the development of that workforce, as well as what ISU is doing to continue the education and training of our current space professionals and executives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Angie. And you mentioned one thing which I think is important about papers. What this alumni conference has also provided is really also a literature list. Even interesting for me, I have downloaded a lot of papers with every session. You can actually download certain very recent studies, and please take the opportunity to do so if you are interested in a subject. Thank you very much, Angie, and I'm asking Mariella Graciano from GMV if she could share her slides and give her statement. Wonderful, we see the slides. Okay.
Okay, now I think, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, and
Okay.
we can see your slides.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I was on mute and I was discussing alone. It's something that it's happening often.
Happens to all of us, yeah.
You know, I think it's a new illness. Everybody just keeping on talking alone while thinking they are on the line. So first of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity of being here. It's always a pleasure. And for me, I was participating to this opening ceremony in Granada, and I have to say that 25 years ago I was a student in ICU, so it's very nice now to be on the other side. So very quickly on GMV, if you don't know, GMV is a private company. It's founded in 1984. It has been founded by a professor from University of Madrid. That's why we are very, very interested in education, and we keep on being interested in educations, because our strengths are basically the wish of innovation and the talent of our people. So, I mean, those are the basis of our companies. As you may see, without going in details, because after lunch details can be boring, you can only just see that we are growing. It's a company that is growing very fast. It's an average of 20-25% every year. This is in personnel, this is in revenue. The most of the company, I mean, when we started, it was 100% space. Now it's on the order of 60% space, and we are growing in diversifying, in international expansion, being now in 11 countries, but always having space in our heart and in our center. Just a quick information for people, we are at the moment company number 6 in Europe. For number of people. We have been succeeding in growing also during the pandemic here. You know, I have more than 57 people whom I never met because of the pandemic. It's almost 2 years that we are working from home. And we are keeping an average of hiring in the order of 20-25 people every month. So very, very interesting. And again, after the big guys in Europe, so after the Airbus, Thales, Airbus Safran launchers, Leonardo HB, you can have GMV now. So we are very happy of those achievements, because as I told you, we are still a family company, a private family company. So very proud, and also with lots of responsibility on those achievements. But now going to the topics of this chat, as mentioned to also by you, Pascal, we are living a big change within space, and we are really going from a kind of institutional dominated arena to something more hybrid, more where institutions institution and private shall find new places and shall find new roles and need to learn on how to working together. So there are at the moment lots, especially let's say in US. I hope that this will come also in Europe soon. There are lots of enterprises that are private enterprises that are drawing a new ecosystem and are also leading project, innovative and big projects that was let's say always done as things that were always done by big guys and big countries. And the idea of this new ecosystem, in my opinion, in order not to have always the same remark at the end, oh, we did it. So I think we have to do it good from the first day, is to try to have a market useful for the benefit of Europe, of the economy, but worldwide and European or depending or also national, but shall be done, shall be taught from the very beginning to be sustainable, to be beneficial for everybody, because at the end we are preparing the future of our new generation. So it's not only a matter of educating them. I mean, we have also to put strong basis for them to live. And again, we need to draw those markets very sustainable. And we need also, I mean, despite many other arguments remaining strictly to the topic, it's true that we need educational entities to adapt to the need of emerging market. Excuse me. And this shall be, in my opinion, done within the respect of human beings' ambition and dreams. I'm sorry, but I don't like the idea that everything is driven by pure power and pure economy. I really think that this shall be done in a way that our young generation, maybe it's because I have teenagers, I have two sons that most likely will be engineers in the near future. I mean, they are born from two engineers and they look like they will be like technicians. So maybe I'm driven by this and I have a personal urgency on those things, but I don't think I need that. I think really that without being populist, that we need to draw something that anyway respects the ambition and dreams of our generation, because we are putting lots of pressure on them. So we need to find a balance between the needs that the economy will have, but also between taking into account their dreams and the way that they need to live a nice life. So it's clear that, you know, every time I go to a lecture or I listen to a lecture, there are some common mantra moments. So artificial intelligence, robotics, cybersecurity, big data, optical links. So all those things, it's clear that we need a professional, talented professional in those areas. But those new markets are opening also new area like traffic management, like telemedicine, like mining. I see, for instance, in mining, or lots of, and this is a mechanism, a dynamics that we have in GMV of spinning technology, spinning in and spinning off space technologies from mining to terrestrial, from space to terrestrial, and terrestrial to space. I mean, food production, new way of doing space. I mean, at the end, especially, I mean, depending on where you are working, but in many cases, the most of us, we are also working with public money. So we have this deserves a particular, let's say, respect, in my opinion. There will be lots of services that will be needed in the future. And also, if we stick to the fact that we are still being human, in my opinion, there will be needs also of space musicians, space artists, space everything. So, I mean, if we really want to do a space, if we really want to live in space or to the maximum extent, or if we really want to create a new ecosystem, we have to think all the needs that human beings have. Now, with respect to what I see, ICU, I mean, I've been in ICU. It has been a great experience, and most likely I'm where I am also thanks to ICU. I mean, I can say this publicly. The relation I had with the people. I mean, we were all young 25 years ago. Now, let's say we are all getting, let's say, more mature, let's put it this way. And ICU for sure is a perfect place where in parallel, let's say, to university, to help this creativity and inspiration. You know, when I give lots of chats to young ladies or young generation, and I always say that creation is the basis of engineering. I mean, you cannot be a good engineer if you are not creative. Then a different story is at the end you have to make your hypothesis and then reduce the problem to 2 lines. But at the very beginning, you need to be very creative, and this is a must. So I see ICU very important space for having people be creative and inspired. We have, I think ICU can have very wide ambition in helping drawing this new space ecosystem, or let's say helping in having ideas on how this new ecosystem where they can go. And this new ecosystem will ask also a different way of being entrepreneurs. So ICU can have a very big role there, in my opinion. There is also a place where ICU could help in finding these new dynamics between institutions and private. It's very important. It's a different way of doing space. There will be also a space for preparing new actors in those new relations between ecosystem and all those ecosystem entities, because we will need everybody. I mean, again, I think that we cannot miss any of the, let's say, human being needs. And also at the end, ICU can contribute in inspiring sustainable approaches for all parties within this emerging space ecosystem. So in my opinion, and this is in parallel to what I mean, is already doing, which is already a lot of information, if I remember correctly. So, but I think entities like ICU, because you are in the position of connecting different worlds, different people coming from all over the world, can be very, very good ideal places for, let's say, drawing and helping drawing the new dynamics that are today needed. And with this, I close my presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Mariella, and also your important personal thoughts, and that we need a lot of innovative skills for the future to support all those emerging markets within the space sector. And I give now the word to Lisa May from Lockheed Martin.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to the ISU alumni in this great event. So I'm hopeful that the slides are now being shown. We're good. Thank you so much. So I'm going to, like Angie, I'm going to give a brief introduction to Lockheed Martin. I realize that everyone has heard of Lockheed Martin, but even as a fairly recent employee, I wasn't aware of the breadth of the work that Lockheed Martin does. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to Lockheed Martin, but in the context of how people can move into careers in a large industry prime company. I think that's an important feature of what we offer. One of the things I get asked a lot is, well, how do we keep young people engaged? How do we bring people and attract them? And the answer is it's the same as with us old folks too, right? It's people like challenges, and they like recognition, and they like opportunities. And Lockheed Martin is a big company, and so as a prime for a lot of global security efforts, from the helicopters, the rotary mission systems, and the aeronautics, as well as our missiles and fire control, and all of our sort of U.S. and global security efforts. We also have what is of primary interest to this group. We have the space sector, the space enterprise, where we do commercial and civil space, as well as some national security and global security space. And the reason why all of this is important is because I work with people in my organization in commercial civil space and that have come from all of these other organizations, and that the skills and the problem solving and the technologies, they cross all of the sectors of Lockheed Martin, and we make a really concerted effort to try to integrate our technologies and to recruit from within. And so if someone were interested in one part of Lockheed Martin but wanted to take on new challenges, it's an opportunity to do so. And I will, in just a minute or two, get to some specific skills, and you'll see how those skills also dovetail with this idea of taking advantage of opportunities even within a particular organization. I myself was at NASA for 14 years, and I think I held 8 different positions in NASA, and similar opportunities are available inside Lockheed Martin. So as I said, I'm a recent acquisition for Lockheed Martin. And I wanted to point out that it was stunning to me as I joined the company, and periodically I have to remind myself that we are a large company. We have 105,000 employees, 54,000, almost half of which are scientists and engineers. We have a presence in over 54 countries. And so, and facilities worldwide. And it is very much a part of our workforce trend and workforce planning to continue to collaborate internationally and to hire internationally as well. And in the bottom corner, you'll see LM Space. Again, that's where I live. And we have over 18,000 employees also located globally. And we actively support more than 30 education and training programs, including ISU. And the programs that we support across this great talent pool include college-bound students and interns, as well as employees currently in Lockheed Martin who want to learn new skills. And we even have some new programs we've announced for vocational trades and technicians and people who are looking to change their career. So it's a broad opportunity, especially for someone who is continuing or in the middle of their education, to explore Lockheed Martin and take advantage of those opportunities, including the internships and internal opportunities. I won't dwell on this too much. It's a lot, but it's within space, that space enterprise of Lockheed Martin. We see, I've made Pascal get out her glasses because there's a lot on this chart. But really the key points here is at the bottom, we have Advanced Technology Center, which is an R&D organization within space. We do mission solutions, which are things like IT and ground systems, as well as the global security space and commercial civil space, which are the Mars missions, the Jupiter missions, Orion, and also weather and remote sensing and communications satellites. One of the things that's not on here is we also have organizations like LM Ventures, which is an actual venture fund run by Lockheed Martin Corporation, in which we invest in small companies and work with them to partner on opportunities where we have mutual interests.
At Lockheed Martin, our why is found in connecting, protecting, and exploring. It propels our purpose from the moon to distant planets and the stars beyond. We've been a part of every NASA sample return mission, every NASA Mars mission, and we are building the spacecraft that will carry humans to the moon and on to Mars. At Lockheed Martin, your mission is ours.
And that is why I love what I do. I get to do that. That is my organization, Commercial Civil Space. And I am the chief technologist for that organization. And it is, I will contend, one of the cooler opportunities. And one of the better parts of that is I get to work with the folks who make those technologies real. So
at Lockheed Martin,
So what do we do? I mean, I've given you the sort of walk down from the global Lockheed Martin picture down to my niche of commercial civil space. And one of the points I've heard the other speakers make is that there are, and I think Angie in particular made it with some really great statistics, there are a lot of different types of jobs at Lockheed Martin in particular. And across all of these, we're seeing some skill trends and workforce trends, but there are some here that are not, this is not an exhaustive list. And some of the folks I work with every day include graphic designers, legal, policy, government affairs. And it is important, as Mariela said, that the International Space University and those who are responsible for the workforce of the future also fold those. And I know it's ongoing, but I'd like to emphasize the importance of folding in the space law, policy, government affairs, governance, as well as the more traditional technical disciplines. And of course, we have communications, public outreach, and folks who do contracts and accounting. And so even though Mariela is going to provide us with 2 new engineers in the near future, we also look for folks who can help us, because Lockheed Martin is a business, and it's a large business, and it requires all of those other skills in order to ensure success for all of our customers. And here we get to the absolute heart of it, and honestly, my last content chart. But I polled a number of leaders in our organization, from some of the global security to human spaceflight, and I asked them what their I think someone has come off of mute. Thank you. Yeah, so I'd asked them, and they gave me an amazingly long list of things that they look for and where they see the skills of the future coming into play. And they boil down to 4 particular categories, but they're actually quite rich. So communications was at the top of everyone's list, and it's traditionally at the top of my list. I have a background in communications before I went into engineering. And the ability to tell stories and to convey your what it is you're working on, or what it is you are proposing to a wide variety of people, is probably the most important skill that certainly when I was coming through engineering school, communications was not emphasized at all. But it really is the heart of how we get things done, particularly in culturally diverse and global ways. Remote work, which was a thing previously, but is now everyone's, enables distributed teams across time zones, across cultures. And it's morning here in Colorado, and I know we're after lunch locally there. So it is just important for people to be able to relate to others. I see trends in more project and team-based education as being a really good foundation for that, rather than the sort of individual striving. So project-based education and team and collaborative education, as well as intern opportunities and working with a variety of different institutions and employers. Growth mindset really means being open to opportunities and adapting to change. The pace of space is accelerating, and we need people to adapt and think outside the box and really even drive the pace of change. Lockheed Martin is frequently viewed as sort of an old space company, but we are actually driving that pace of change internally in ways that are new to us, and having employees and having personnel that are on board for that is really important. The other is the ability to synthesize disparate information, to work with the policy, to ensure that your solutions and our customer solutions are really taking in all of the needs of the future. And also resiliency, the ability to bounce back and being resilient to adverse outcomes. And for that, I really think that that's an experiential thing, and the encouraging students to do activities, extracurricular activities, or again, internships or volunteer projects that enable them to experience some of that resilience and develop some of that resiliency is an important trend for the future. And a mixture of engineering and business acumen. Simply having technical solutions is not enough. Everyone sees management as a path to the top, but technical excellence is also the foundation of that. And also, companies are in the business of business. The future space economy is an economy, and understanding how business decisions affect engineering and technical solutions is really an important part of that synthesis and diversity of thought that we are looking for in people. And also non-traditional career paths. Angie spoke to the shortage of, or actually it was Pascal that spoke to the shortage of STEM professionals, and the idea that employees can come from within, from different disciplines, the idea that folks can come in through vocational and become, in more conventional engineering paths, but also embracing that agility and mixture of engineering and business acumen. And I came from a very non-traditional career path. I started in radio news. I ended up managing NASA's Mars program, and now I'm at Lockheed Martin. And so not looking for people to have come up through the ranks, but people who are open to opportunities and use those opportunities to move from place to place and bring their skills to bear on different problems. And with that, I will turn it back to Pascal.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That was also really interesting that, primed and so big companies are looking a little bit for unconventional employees in the future, which are quite versatile and flexible. So very interesting. So the next speaker will be Guillermo Tanier from Linspace. He is the CEO, and please, Guillermo.
Hello, everybody. So Linspace is a recent company, so probably none of you know it, or a few of you know it. We are a European company. We are based in France, in Strasbourg, actually. And we were founded in 2020. We are today around 20 people, so we are small, but we are growing very fast. We expect to double by the end of next year, for example. So before I talk about what we do, quickly, what is the link with ISU? So I am an ISU alumni myself, one of my co-founders as well. The core team is based in the ISU building. Hello?
Now you're back again.
Okay, I've been muted for some reason. So we are based in the ISU building. We have 5 ISU alumni in the team now, and we value it a lot. So yes, we are, I think, one of the first ISU startups. So I'm looking forward to see that growing. Now a bit on some of the context of Linspace. We are still on stealth, so I'm going to give you a bit of context, not specifically on the company, but more on what we are trying to achieve. As you know, digitalization, it's changing all industries.
Sorry, Guillaume, there's somebody who is not muted. Please mute your microphone so that he can really speak, that we can listen to him.
All right, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So as you may know, if you look outside of space, digitalization is changing all the industries. Software, it's everywhere. Companies are getting faster processes, are more agile, collaborating, and that is done through digitalization. What we see is traditionally in the space industry, it's always a few years behind other industries, and particularly it's very hardware focused. What we see a lot is software. We see very often software is typically an afterthought. So we think about the hardware, we build the hardware, and then software is kind of a tool. But this is changing. It's changing very fast, and it's especially visible in the new space industry. simply because every new company being incorporated is trying to find new ways, new methods of working to be more innovative, to be more competitive, invent new processes, and this requires more advanced software, more new intelligent tools. So I'd like to talk specifically about one, the cloud. I mean, for many people in the space industry, the cloud, it's a scary beast. You know, it's dangerous, it's unknown, it's risky, but actually the cloud is bringing many, many benefits. Accessing data and tools from anywhere, working remotely, sharing data among teams, among different engineers, different tools, but also to build software, to build these tools you need to run your missions, to build them much more easily because all the generic stuff are already provided by cloud providers. So this is a thing that is changing a lot in the space industry, and I think there is a lot to do still. So today in Linspace, we are on stealth, but what I can tell you is that we are building the technology to help the space industry go to the cloud and get digitalized. What we are trying to achieve at Linspace is to make the space players and the space industry as a whole leaner via the power of digitalization. It's a great journey. We have a big ambition, and so we are actively looking for top talents to help us. So don't hesitate to contact us. Now, quickly to the point of today, what knowledge and skills will be needed in the coming years for the workforce. So personally, I see three things. The first one is obviously software and digital technologies. And you see that in many things. For example, software-defined radios. You know, it's a new thing. Before was hardware. All these collaborative systems, being able to process data on board the satellites, ground stations as a service, model-based system engineering. All of these examples, they are entirely running through modern digital technologies. And they are getting more and more powerful, more and more automated. You know, so the workforce of tomorrow, I think, will really need to know how to leverage this. Being able in your daily work to build your processes, to build your tools yourself in every aspect of what you do, and leverage things like the cloud. Second, I think there is a need of a global overview. I think ISU is great for that, providing a global overview, an end-to-end knowledge of space missions. What we see is like the technical details on space missions, they are made as a service, you know, day after day. More companies are providing abstractions of this complexity. And so it means the workforce is getting kind of higher in the value chain. We need to understand better the big picture. And I think ISU is a perfect spot-on education for that. And the third one, it's, let's say, operations, space operations, business operations, which is also very traditionally an afterthought. And that is logical. Huh? I mean, after the era of space exploration for decades, we are now in the era of commercialization. So it means space now is mostly for business. And so understanding how companies are going to deliver the service to their customer is paramount. I think today space engineering education is very, very good at teaching how to build a spacecraft and how to integrate it and test it, but not so good, I believe, at how to operate the constellation, the satellites, the system, and how to run a business out of it. So that's the three points I see, and I'll be happy to answer some questions about that later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. It's also very interesting, and I want just to say one sentence. I think ISU is really going into direction with the dynamically evolving space sector, that entrepreneurship is a very important topic. It is now an elective, but it will be a core subject very soon in the curriculum of the master and also in the other programs. So I think it was very interesting to see also, you know, from a company like Linspace, the point of view, and we will certainly come back to that. I go now to Susmita Mohanty, the CEO of Earth to Orbit, and ask her for her statement.
Thank you, Pascal. Hello, everybody. I think I'll start with the latest space development, which is the recent suborbital flights that we saw from Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. And the reason I want to start with that as my launch pad is space as it was in the last century and as it has been in the first 20 years of this century is now entering a new phase where, in my view, space has gotten out of isolation. You know, the space sector for a long time had a very clear connect with the military establishment. But now you see that aerospace is very easily and seamlessly tied to information technology, commercial automobiles, commercial jetliners. And that's the kind of thing you will have noticed in the new breed of entrepreneurs who are opening up access to space. And right off the bat, I would like to add that I've never quite subscribed to the idea of STEM personally, which is why if you look at my space trajectory, I've had a very overt multidisciplinary education and also a professional story. I started in old space. I started with a brief stint at NASA Johnson in the late 90s when the Shuttle Mir cooperation was ongoing. So I had a chance to not only see the cooperation between the American space program and the Russian space program in the late 90s, I also had a chance to be a test subject for very many experiments that were happening at Johnson at the time. And this is pre 9/11 days, so we had access to all buildings. We could go in the middle of the night to mission control to look at the second Hubble repair mission, for example. Those are the kind of privileges that I think new students won't have, given that the world has become a lot more security oriented in terms of access and so on. I then went on to start my professional career in '98 at Boeing in Southern California. I worked for the International Space Station program for about 3 years. So my background is, my foundation is engineering. Then I went on to do a master's in industrial design. By then I was very clear that I wanted to design things for living in outer space. And then I went to ISU, like many of my co-panelists. And eventually, I also got a PhD in aerospace architecture, which in my view is an invented discipline. It took nearly 15 to 20 years for us to get aerospace architecture accepted as a professional discipline within the American Institute of Aerospace, Aeronautics and Astronautics. So what I'm trying to tell you guys here is science and technology are just one of the many facets of being a space professional. After spending, well, in Boeing, I should also add that though my background was in design and engineering, I went on to do international business development. I was part of a small team of 12 people who were the only ones in the space station program that were bringing in money for the program. Everybody else was busy spending it. So our role was to do what we call bid and proposal, write proposals and sell hardware to international partners of the space station program. Anything from a space qualified fire extinguisher to something as large as an entire module. So that gave me the exposure to how do we bid for projects, negotiate projects, and also manage international contracts. This was not part of my education, guys. I think it's very important to understand that there are many things you can actually learn on the job as long as you're willing and open to be doing it. And then at age 29, 3 years after being with Boeing, I decided that I wanted to start my own company. And back in the day, the word startup didn't really exist. So I left Huntington Beach and I moved to San Francisco and I started my first little company called Moonfront. And that was in the year 2000. Neither did the word new space exist, nor did the word startup exist. We just called it a small company. It was a consulting firm. In 2004, while I was still living in San Francisco, I co-founded yet another company in Vienna, in Austria, which is still around. It's been 17 years. It's called Liquifer. And what Liquifer does is it not only designs human exploration systems, everything from space habitats to rovers to spacesuits, but also builds prototypes of these systems. The reason I chose to become an entrepreneur in the year 2000, after spending a good 3+ years in what I would call a prime, like Boeing, and having seen NASA Johnson up close, was very simple. There were two main reasons for why I became an entrepreneur and have been for the past 20 years. One is when you are with a big company or a big space agency, you have to toe the line. If you need to speak your mind, be independent, have an agency of your own, I think you have to step outside the system. The second reason was, if you want to challenge the status quo and change the status quo, it is sometimes a good idea to start your own enterprises. So I think with the Vienna company, the idea was to show that the engineering-centric approach that's been used by space agencies for decades is kind of obsolete, and it's time to use a multidisciplinary approach for designing systems for space exploration. I moved back to India in 2008 after spending about 12 years in California, and I started my third company, which is called Earth to Orbit. The first 7 years, the mission of Earth to Orbit was to try and build a bridge between the United States and India, despite a standing embargo. So in 1998, when India conducted nuclear tests, the US imposed an embargo on India, because of which American companies are not allowed to sell space components to India. And under the embargo, there's no way an American company making satellites could potentially launch their satellite on an Indian rocket. So India has two rockets, the PSLV, which is used for Earth observation satellites and weather satellites, and the other one is called the GSLV, which is used for launching communication satellites. So after moving back to India, one of the things I had one of my interns from ISU research for me and show me was the number of foreign launches that had been made on the PSLV rocket starting 1999 up until 2008. The cumulative mass was barely 1,500 kilograms, which is not even equal to one PSLV launch, which can carry about 1,600 kilograms. So I decided, why not take it as a mission to open the US launch market for India? And if you look at it the other way around, to make it possible for small satellite makers in the US to have an additional launch option. So in this particular case, it was not my design skills that came into play or my international business development skills. What came into play were a completely new set of skills, which I developed as I went, and I would call it soft diplomacy. So I must have met about 14 diplomats, both in Delhi and Washington, DC over 3 years, to be able to get the first waiver of sorts to override the ban and allow the launch of my client, which was a Stanford startup called Skybox Imaging, which also happens to be the first startup that raised private venture funds in the Valley. Their satellite, the very first one, no, not the demo satellites, but the first real satellite, to launch it on the PSLV rocket. So this was a major accomplishment, if you ask me. It was like bringing down a mini Berlin Wall, because here we are, the embargo is still in place, ITAR export control regime is still in place, and Skybox is allowed to then launch SkySat 3 on the PSLV. And by the time we launched SkySat, it was 6 years, and Google bought Skybox. So we ended up launching a Google satellite. So what I'm trying to tell you guys here is, I think Lisa pointed out some of these things in the last couple of slides, is that as an aerospace professional, you can learn some of the things through your university degrees, but some of the things you can learn, I think agility was one of the words that Lisa used, which is very important, and multidisciplinarity. How open are you to all of these? So let's say I did about 6 years of soft diplomacy to make that happen. And thereafter, we switched our focus within Earth to Orbit, and we hired a small team and trained them in data science. So these were aerospace engineers, master's graduate students who were fresh out of college. We trained them in machine learning and remote sensing. The idea was to see how we could use open source satellite data from Sentinel, which is a European constellation, and from Landsat, which is an American constellation, and use satellite data in conjunction with the latest advances in machine learning and artificial intelligence to develop models for use cases in agriculture and cities. How do we make cities climate smart? You know, we built models where, given a certain geography in a city, we can tell you that these are the rooftops best suited for harvesting solar energy. Or we could give you a certain idea of the particulate matter, pollution levels in a city. So I've gone from working in human space exploration for about 15 years. Then I was into launching foreign satellites on an Indian rocket for about 7 years. And I spent 3 years in downstream applications. And now I think the pandemic has been a great time of catharsis and getting a chance to recalibrate what is it that I want to do in the near future. And I'm thinking of moving away from mainstream entrepreneurship after 20 years and starting or launching a new space think tank out of India. So I think the idea here was to give you a broad overview of the trajectory that an ISU alum such as myself has taken. And I really think the 21st century workforce needs people who can think in these seamless ways. I mean, I also do a lot of cultural things. So I had invited one of the French choreographers, Kitsu Dubois, who has done amazing dance experiments on parabolic flights and underwater and with circus acrobats, to come to Delhi to organize an underwater dance workshop. So how do we seamlessly straddle the worlds of art, architecture, design, technology, and business? I think that's the kind of the entire spectrum that could potentially drive how we train our workforce for the future. Thanks, Pascal. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So, Susmita, and I think what you have explained touches very much actually what Lisa said as one of the criteria, non-traditional career paths. Yeah. So I'm a little bit in a problem that your discussion topics and all your introductions were very versatile and very interesting, so that we have hardly any time for question. What we could actually do is that we will, when we have many questions, we could actually answer them later on and also put them on the web for everybody. And right now, I would like to take one question, and then I'm unfortunately to wrap up because you have a very intriguing next subject at 5 p.m. Maybe the host can send me one question. Okay. Okay, I can actually I can hardly see that. What do you think are the top 3 soft skills that professionals need for the future, and why? I think if you could help me to answer these questions very fast, and we will probably try to answer all the questions which are impossible to answer right now in this time scale online, and publish them in the next days during the conference. Angie, can I start with you?
Sure, Pascal, thank you. In terms of soft skills, I think a very important skill is to be able to communicate. And I can't remember who made the point, but when we go through engineering school, that's not, an area of emphasis, but it's very important to be able to communicate. Teamwork is another important soft skill. You need to be able to work with other people so that you can effectively address problems and come up with a good solution. So communications, teamwork, and there's so many others. I think another soft skill would be, some of the things that Susmita brought up, just being able to be flexible, change what you're doing. And I loved it that you were doing soft diplomacy. So things like that are really important. So thanks, that's my take on it.
Thank you. Guillaume, may I just ask you, because the others had a bit more time, so I will ask you also these questions about, okay, I have another questions. In order to get new people from other industries to space, the space industry have to let them in. Sometimes it feels like a closed community. How to open a community? Is there, could you answer something very fast? Because I have then to make a summary in 1 minute.
Yeah, actually it's related to the first question. So I will give you one for the first question, which is the ability to learn. Space industry is changing so fast. Ability to learn and adjust and adapt to what's coming is key. So definitely that's what we're looking for. And so to answer the second question is the same thing. When we are building a company in, let's say, technologies coming from outside, by default, you need people from outside. So just as an example, my CTO is not coming from space. Yeah, if we are to disrupt and reinvent things, you need people who come from other industries. So I believe startups have a big role to play, and it's basically opening up our mindset and having the, I don't know, the will to say, let's do it differently, and not just, it was done like this, so we just repeat. And I think that's how you can get people from outside to bring their talent.
Pascal, can I quickly say something there? I think space is no more a closed community. I mean, the 2 new spacecraft that flew came out of Seattle, where you have the information technology industry. So I think cross-pollination has already begun. So commercial jetliners, automobiles, IT, nanotech, it's already, if the new workforce needs to adapt to this change.
Wonderful. I have gotten 5 minutes more. So I negotiated, on chat. So there is one question, last questions. What about people that do not hold an engineering background? Do you think there can be an opportunity for them to join a company like Lockheed?
I think that's to me.
Yes.
Absolutely. As I pointed out, there are lawyers and accountants and graphic designers and publication specialists and policy analysts and government affairs specialists and people from all different disciplines. Any large-scale space enterprise needs to be multidisciplinary. Every team needs to be multidisciplinary. Every team I'm on at Lockheed Martin has people from, I'm sort of pulling at the threads of the people that I work with day to day. And so there are a lot of opportunities because, as Susmita said, it's absolutely necessary that we take an integrated approach to the projects and the economy and the future and the opportunities that we have in front of us.
And Graziella, would you agree with that? Is it possible that people at GMV do not need an engineering background?
Yes, of course. As I was mentioning, we need lots of experts. I mean, in many different areas, mathematician. I mean, most of us, we are all technicians coming from a technical background. But I was mentioning, we have lawyers, we have economists, we have also creative people to make our boring engineering solution more nice when we sell them. So everything is needed. So I think we are in a very good overall. The space world, I agree that is not closed anymore. So it's open to many new talented people. Between the skills, I would also add patience, to be patient, because space mission, we don't do space mission in 1 or 2 or 3 years. This makes, we need to do things. But if you want to work in space and you are flexible, you are talented, and you are patient, I think all different skills are welcome.
Thank you very much. So I'm trying to summarize in 2 minutes. I must honestly say I really enjoyed that you actually really spoke from the heart. I would have liked to discuss a question about the female leadership in the space sector also, which I think is probably really expressed in this panel, where Guillaume is actually the only male. So there are changes, we see that. And I just want to summarize that I think what you all expressed is that you actually really need an interdisciplinary and intercultural and international education, like you actually get it at ISU. And that was very interestingly discussed in many of your companies, and what are the needs. So we will need innovative skills to support, emerging markets, and in particular in combination with a downstream sector, which touches with the non-space sector in all areas such as transport and energy and security, agriculture, medicine, and so on. And so we really need a very diverse workforce, and engineering is not the only background which is necessary. We talked about new relationships between between entities of the space ecosystem gets more and more needed in the future because space broadens and gets really an important part of our daily life. We talked about entrepreneurship. And we talked about primes opening up in order to have stronger relations between government policies and the traditional technical disciplines. Resilience was a buzzword for the future, and also non-traditional career paths, which has been discussed very typically as an example by Susmita. It's always good to have an example. And what we need for the future, the skills, software, the global overview, and really, I think a lot of communication skills in order to also to convince politicians in order to invest more in the space sector, and looking forward to all the benefits which the space sector can bring to society in the future. So I think we have learned a lot, but this is a topic which we will have to discuss, because one of the bigger problems is that we have a shortage in STEM workforce. We have to somehow really reach out that people really understand how rich the space sector is, how diverse, how dynamic, how fast it evolves, and what kind of people and skills we need in the future. And in this, we have to work together. And I am 1 minute over time. I thank you so much for all your statements and for all your personal experiences and the details of your company. And I think it was very helpful for all the people which are listening, and also for taking it away and taking these thoughts, into think tanks, what we actually really need in the future. Thank you very much for the distinguished panel members and everybody who was behind in helping. And I'm gonna close this workforce panel because we have to go on to the next really interesting topic. Thank you very much.